We could let you know that we put this on YouTube.
Not a problem at all.
Okay. And that board behind you, we'll have it set up so that can also be projected.
Oh,
for Zoom.
interesting. Very nice.
Oh, there's the, we're in the.
I think everything should be, I'll just talk to my slides. I think that's fine. If I need to, I can.
There's
There-
no markers.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, there's some on there, okay.
The reason it gets complicated, and Matthew's the only one that can,
Cause you did it, though, did you?
Huh?
You guys did, sure, you have to wait for my.
Yeah.
and Carol's supposed to let me.
Oh, no. Yes. No, it says 8:45. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it does, it's an hour slow.
Oh, it has, it has been.
They go look for yeah, the dances. Oh, the second hand's going around. No, that's close. So we need to move it up and down.
That's never, half the time it's never been right.
Bringing it, well, it's only just an hour. Hour. Well, the whole time. Cause it's 9:45, and that's the whole time. It didn't spring ahead to the big old thing.
Well, the computer's right on the screen.
Yeah,
We have to use that. Maybe some people from the choir and maybe we'll do.
You understand.
And then maybe people who didn't set the clock.
And that's okay. Okay, on YouTube, from what I hear.
Oh, that's right. The world lives there. Just not me.
I mean, it's not that thing.
With the changing time, I think we're glad you're showing up together. I don't. Right.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We actually have a pretty good turnout for students. That wasn't terribly loud.
Matthew has a principal part.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a musical.
oh, we went to say, was it last night? Oh, my God.
You were there last night?
Was it on Friday night?
Oh, Friday, oh.
Oh, my gosh, he is awesome. Well, everybody there, but he really, I was so surprised with his body language and his voice. Oh,
He was in his element, right?
oh, he was having the best time, you could tell. He was.
When I saw him, I thought he was sweating.
Did you see the production?
Yeah, last night, yeah.
Oh, last night, oh, we went Friday, night. Oh, my gosh. Really good.
Where did you park, Billy?
Well, we got there a little early because the parking is a real pain.
What time did you get there?
Well, we got there around 7, we were a little early, because I know that the parking was limited.
Well, that's what I was thinking too.
I got there at 7:28.
So we moved our back to Friday nights.
You were a busy lady.
Well, it's not nothing, and 3 things the same night.
I know
It was just pony. And I thought, well, it's like,
what you exercise and choosing.
we called Carol and I, and she said, I think I can switch you to Friday night. Okay, so she did, that worked out really well. Got to go to both of them.
So next Saturday night, Music and Browse is having Irish Scottish music. Yeah.
In the same place?
No, it's in Browse. It's the old church.
Oh, the old church in Cross, yeah.
And this group has, I think, performed there 3 times over the last several years. The fiddler is from Scotland, and the cellos is from California. But beautiful music. And I think if everything works right, remember Reformation Sunday, the bagpiper,
Oh, yeah.
Megan, they're gonna try to hire and have lead them in. Yeah. So
Kirsten and I went to a memorial at Shepherd of the Valley,
Uh-huh.
and the bagpiper was in the sanctuary.
Oh,
Did a good job of soft pedaling. but it was-
Well,
we can probably start.
well, can't.
Oh, yeah, that's,
No, Matthew, where are you?
yeah.
We didn't get out on time, but- Well, I know, but I needed to. And put the, he's on. That's
I
right.
think it's up to the.
I get you to this point. And I can run the summer stuff. Can't. This, it's, he has to share, it, it's Zoom, so he shares and stuff. No problem if I do this alone. They won't give me the password.
You are a customer, John?
Apparently not. They don't hear him running up the stairs though.
It's not Matthew. It sounds like- Oh. What's that?
Hello.
Not yet. We may go and make it start.
Yeah, I'm recording. I got the Zoom set up. I can't put the thumb drive.
There's a PowerPoint.
Where? Well, Beth and I forgot, they're all a little sleepy. Yeah. Well, Don said, I didn't do it, I'll tell you about.
No, I left.
Oh, he was still there. It wasn't over.
No, right.
We stayed, we were there the night before.
Yeah.
And it-
Well,
Since he said, please stay, I was like, this is the all, so he did.
here comes.
There she is. Hello.
Working as best as you can. You're good, you're good. Everybody's slow today, Jim. Holy. John, you think we should go ahead and start?
Yeah. He started a career or something.
Yes,
I know. Go to my daughter's closet, just in case.
Morning. We have a thumb drive.
Yep, okay. But you got everything going, so you're good. You don't,
I can show you exactly which the files are.
okay,
I'm Justin, by the way.
just to get to see you. What I'm gonna do, Justin, what we've found works in the past.
I, so I hear you are into the woods?
Yes, I am.
What?
The baker,
Oh, very nice.
the baker. Oh, wait, that's a,
Oh.
hold on a second. I gotta figure out what I'm doing.
Many months ago in high school, I was Cinderella Springs.
Oh, fantastic. I love it. We're having such a good time. Okay, let me see this. What I need to do is I'm gonna delete this because I don't need that anymore. We've had other presentations.
No, not.
Let's see. Hold on a second.
Oh.
Okay. So, oh wait.
There was cross windshield. So you went to.
Let's,
Well, one of the things that,
okay. Program overview outreach.
Yep.
Okay, oh wait. See, the problem is it's gonna, when I do that, it wants me to do a login for my 361. So instead, what I'm gonna do
Whatever you need.
is just, I will delete this from my drive,
Not a problem.
but it's,
Publicly available.
okay.
I could even get rid of some of that junk. You know, me too, but
Oh,
And is there a clicker or do I just,
Just let John know, he'll advance it for you. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I always forget how to do this.
I know where it's one of those where it's like, if you're not doing it on a regular basis.
Right. Let me just share screen.
You know, there's some.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, I think just to advance it, you can either do return or space. I think we'll advance the slide and I'll let you know.
I'll mention it when I.
The mouse is disconnected to make room for the flash drive, so.
yeah, we're gonna solve that problem. I talked to Carol.
Okay.
Well, I've been hearing great reviews.
Oh, we're having a good time. Having a good time.
Okay, y'all, let's get started. I'd like to introduce Justin Spielmann from New Day, as you can see. Justin tells me he's from upstate New York, so he and John would have some.
Where on state?
Liberty, Monticello, that area, about 2.5 hours northwest of the city.
Yeah.
But he has chosen to be an Albuquerque. Left and came back.
Smart move.
And he's worked in the nonprofits for about 18 years, I think you said.
Yes.
And was at the Natural History Museum at one point. Now it's with New Day and here to tell us about it. And I think that is something that I don't know very much about. And probably some of the rest of you are in the same boat, so. Yeah.
Sure. So, as that wonderful introduction from Carol, my name is Justin Spielmann. I'm the development director there. Fairly new to the organization. I started there in August of last year. Prior to that, I was at the New Mexico Association for the Education of Young Children, which did professional development for early childhood teachers. My role in development at New Day focuses on a few different aspects. Fundraising and is the primary, so that is both grant fundraising in terms of writing grants for the organization. We have very large scale programmatic grants that run through the federal, state, county, and city systems. Those are generally done by our CEO, but the smaller, more community focused and community connections based grants are my responsibility. I also handle private donation fundraising and event fundraising. And then I'm also one of the primary folks that sort of connects with other community groups like yourself. And with my, one of the things that I'm very passionate about when it comes to New Day is trying to connect young people that we serve with cultural resources throughout the state. My feeling amongst Albuquerque has been that for the size of the city we have an amazing level of cultural resources. I look at our biopark, I look at our various museums, I look at our, airports and, soccer stadium, soccer field, and think that for the size of the city we have, it is an amazing, amazing space. So overall, I'll just give you a brief overview of what New Day is. New Day is a 501c3 nonprofit. It has been around since 1976 here in Albuquerque. It focuses on serving young people. And when I say young people, I'm specifically meaning at the low end, 11 years old, the high end, 25 years old. So we refer to that as transition age, where young people are transitioning from, being effectively children through their teenage years into their early adulthood. And specifically, we work with young people experiencing homelessness and marginalization. When I say homelessness, I don't necessarily mean actually living on the street. That's a component of it. Homelessness can mean a lot of different things, whether it is actually living on the street, whether it is, occasionally spending time at a motel or a hotel for a few nights and then going back to the street or going to some other situation. Couch surfing is another thing where people just sort of ask their friends if they can stay for a few nights and then sort of string enough of those together. That's another thing. One of the ways that sort of homelessness tends to be defined in our community, in the nonprofit sector, is the idea that you don't necessarily know where you're going to be sleeping in 30 days' time. So that's sort of the context of what homelessness. Marginalization means that people are sort of pushed to the fringes. They're not visible. They're not seen by the larger community. There's not resources available for them. They're not being able to be provided the basic necessities that many of us don't even think about, or they may not have been taught the skills to expect those or recognize those. So for example, we have as a brief example, within our organization, we have a landlord liaison. So we actually have a position that helps young people that are in our housing programs communicate effectively with the property managers and landlords at the properties we work with, so that they can make, timely maintenance requests, or talk about what happens if they get, noticed by, the management in terms of having large parties or something like that, or anything like that, where it's basically trying to facilitate communication, because a lot of young people will not, because especially if they have been homeless in the past, they tend to have a level of resiliency and independence that, is its own unique set of skills. And so what ends up happening is, for example, if their oven isn't working, they might try to, rig together a cooking apparatus that, might utilize the oven, might not. And then one of our coordinators will come in and say, that's amazingly inventive and incredibly dangerous. So we're going to talk to the management. So it's one of those situations where we are very cognizant of how to try to smooth out, again, this transition age. The other aspect that I want to highlight is the fact that while we go to 25, we don't necessarily end there. A lot of our housing programs especially do handoffs to things like barracks, so that once they age out of our programs at 25, we do have other options. Because especially amongst our housing program, there are some young people in that they may need some support in their late teens, early 20s, and then they potentially could, join the workforce and then do a rental situation outside of what we offer. But some may need support for the entire life based on their, physical or behavioral health limitations. So we're very cognizant of that and try to transition this. So on the screen right now, we have two different images. The top one is our safe home. We'll be sort of doing a visual walkthrough of each of these buildings. That's our safe home. That is near basically where Louisiana dead ends at the top of the base. That's right there at that corner. And then on the right there is our drop-in center, and that is located on Truman right near San Mateo in Central. That's two of our physical plans. The other one is our admin office, which is right north of the airport, basically opposite the Waffle House. We're right on that road there. So if you could change the slides, I would appreciate it. Oh, go back. Oh, here, actually, now give me 1 second here. 1 second. Okay. Oh, did not. We're missing the graphic. I'm going to show you what that graphic says. Okay, so there should be a 464 on the left side of the screen. Just let's imagine that's there. So in 2021, there was what's referred to as a comprehensive needs assessment done within Bernalillo County, looking at the amount of homeless young people experiencing homelessness in Bernalillo County. The low end, the age brackets there was 15 to 25. That was done in 2021. The data was published in 2022, and the estimated amount of young people experiencing homelessness now in Bernalillo County at the low end was 1,100 at any one time, and 2,300 on the high end. So there's a variation there, but that's roughly the numbers that we look at. Last year, fiscal year, FY23, so ending in June of last year, we served 464 individual young people. That's non-duplicated. So if someone came into our housing program and then also attended our drop-in center, that counts as one person, not two. So we helped 464 unique individuals throughout all of our programs. So that represents about 20 to 40% of the overall need within Bernalillo County. So in terms of nonprofits, that's incredibly high. I don't think I've ever been with an organization with that level of reach. So we're very proud of those numbers. Obviously, as I laid out, 1,100 to 2,300 is still a very large issue that needs to be dealt with. So 780 young people engaged across all programs. So that means people showing up that can potentially be duplication. Different activities and learning opportunities offered includes, events, our drop-in center being open. We also have a life skills academy that is run, and that is what it's referring to in the next one. We have over 2,600 people, people in seats for our life skills academy. And again, that is with duplication. We offered 17,000 plus nights of safe nights provided between primarily between our housing and our safe home program. We engaged with 115 community partners. And then to talk about the level of engagement of young people with our Life Skills Academy, we had 56% of the young people that we served engaged in 4 or more. So that's sort of what we're looking at. And then, John, if you could look at the next. Thank you so much. So this is we'll actually walk through this entire sheet. This is sort of what the discussion is based on. This will go through our mission and the various programs we offer, including our housing program, our safe home shelter, our drop-in centers, Street Hours and Rise, and our Life Skills Academy. If any of you are interested, I do have copies of my card here available, and my contact information will be available at the end of the presentation. So if anyone needs to copy it down, they can. Please reach out to me and I can provide you with this in more detail. So if you would jump to these next slide. Okay, so here's our mission. So one of the things that we focus on is we focus on strengths-based connections. So that means looking at young people not as, because of their experiences damaged, broken, and traumatized. They may very well be traumatized, but what we try to focus on is that while they've experienced trauma in the past, we want to focus on the skills that they have developed and then build up those. We also use the nurture heart approach, which again is strengths-based and focused. So we're not necessarily focusing on the negative. We try to acknowledge it and recognize it as a possible link to current behaviors, but we want to move forward and try to build up the life skills of young people. The other thing that's very inherent to UDA's overall mission is the idea that we try to meet young people where they're at. If they are currently living on the street, we try to, we have a street outreach program that goes out to them and meets them in their environment where they feel comfortable or where they're currently at. We let them know that the drop-in center is available, that they can come into there. Sometimes, especially with young people living on the street, they need to have self-defense weapons on them to keep themselves safe. So we really try to meet young people where they're at, whatever their situation is, in a non-judgmental fashion, and also make it so that the guiding principle amongst all of this is the fact that, I know this from my own personal physical and mental health journeys, we only fundamentally change when we want to, when we say that we're going to. And the issue here is that some young people that we interact with don't necessarily aren't ready to make those changes. So we try to build up, core competencies, life skills, and then when those young people are ready to make that change, we always reiterate that we are there to help them, and we provide those supports. So that talks about our mission. And again, one of the things we really want to talk about is get young people safe, then create a community within our programs in terms of, for example, our drop-in center, which we'll get into, has a regular group of young people that are there quite frequently. They form community there, and then also make sure they know that the larger community outside of New Day is available for them as well. So, for example, doing cultural enrichment things like going to museums, going to other areas, so that they may never. I think for me, it's also a cultural capital area where I grew up going to museums. I love museums. I ended up working in a museum. A lot that happened because I was introduced to museums at a very young age. It always felt for me. And a lot of young people that we serve don't necessarily have those opportunities. They weren't brought there by a parent or a family member or a community member, and it may feel like, oh, that's for somebody else. And we try to break down those walls to let young people know that it's there for them and that they are part of the community here in Albuquerque, and this is a community resource for them. And also themselves. I mean, a lot of some of our young people are using substances, and they are not necessarily connected to who they want to be, or they may not actively have a concept of where they can go, what they want to do, for life, or they might just see themselves as sort of dead-ended or don't have a lot of fun. And we try to let them know that there are options out there for them. There are support services that can help get them into a place where they can be employed, they can have a and again, we talk, and then sort of the vision statement there speaks to the strengths base. That we meet young people where they're at with their identities, we look at their talents, and strengthen and utilize these young people as a way to strengthen themselves, but then also strengthen our community. We've been around since 1976. We started out as a safe home shelter, basically providing shelter for young people actively on the streets. And So we're approaching our 48th year. We're building up a signature event that is going to get larger and larger as we move towards our 50th in 2026. And again, the last paragraph there talks about what it sort of outlined. And then the other thing is we're looking for resiliency and encouraging safe, healthy lives. Next slide, please. So let's start with our housing supports. This one probably has the least amount of photos, just because it is something where it's individuals' personal spaces, and we don't necessarily have great photos of them. We have a variety of, and that's another piece of this, is we are very focused on the privacy of the young people that we serve. So, for example, our drop-in center, that is open Tuesday through Friday, 12 to 6, 12 to 6, and is closed to the public on Monday, to the public and to the community on Monday, so that we can bring in we can bring in community partners so that they can tour the space and see it. We don't do tours while the young people are there. We're not there to put young people on display. In fact, our safe home is not open for the same reasons, and also because it deals exclusively with minors, 11 to 17. So, about our housing supports. So we offer 4 different housing supports. They vary based on the amount of oversight needed, the age range. Some of this is dictated by the grants that are funding them, but then also there are some unique differences. And so, as you can see, our TLP, which is our transitional living program, is for sort of the younger, overall housing supports 16 to 25 years. So on sort of that middle tier of 16 to 21, the TLP focuses on those young people potentially leaving systems, or what we refer to as systems involved young people, whether that's the foster care system, whether that's the juvenile justice system. And then with our young adult support housing, our YAF program, again, that's slightly older, 18 to 25. Those are who are dealing either with disability or homelessness or both. We do have some young people who have physical disabilities and have experienced homelessness in the past. Our supportive transitional living are for young people 18 to 25 who are experiencing homelessness, and they live in company with roommates. We do that for a variety of reasons, because especially with the current economic and housing climate, we feel that is a more reasonable and realistic expectation for young people to move to transition into a place where they might be cohabitating with someone early on, because roommates are a thing as rents rise. The other thing that is part of all of this is you try to, again, work with young people and meet them where they're at. Some young people are more comfortable in a more social group setting than they are being on their own. Because often they might come from a place where they might have a community when they are living on the streets, but then when they come into an apartment situation, they might feel isolated. And so having a cohabitation or multiple people, living with roommates, that might be helpful. And then also we work with CYFT, and we have our traditional supportive housing. So that's for people in fostering connection, and CYFT becomes the entrance. All of these programs, just to give you some general outline of what happens with our young people in programs. We have coordinators for each of these programs. They visit the young people that are being served at least once a week, have a discussion with them, help figure out what barriers they can break down, how they can facilitate things for them. And then also all of the interactions are tracked. We have a 3-person data team that reports to both state and federal databases. And so to make sure that all of our metrics and things like that are tracked. So we are very, I don't want to say data driven, but we're data aware. We do try to be more interpersonal driven, but we try to make sure we capture as much as we can in terms of where people are and how they are able to access resources and build up skills. Also, we try to have interdepartmental coordination and functionality. So if a young person's in our housing program, they can also attend things at our drop-in center or the Life Skills Academy, so they can build some of those skills. We try to make sure that there's as much cooperation and collaboration as humanly possible. I think that's it for housing. So next slide, please. So our safe home shelter, as I mentioned, is located on Truman. Oh, sorry, that's safe home shelter. Sorry, that's on Bridgehurst. Our safe home is for 11 to 17-year-olds. That's purely for minors. Unfortunately, right now we're in the process of rehiring our safe home staff. So that'll be open back up in the spring. Right now it's on a pause. We had to pause it in the middle of December. If you know anyone who has a safe home or shelter background, we are currently looking for shelter managers and then going to use that as a jumping off point to hire the rest of the staff. Again, that should be open by sometime this summer. Minors 11 to 17, but these are all things. They come in and they have meal prepared by a chef. We do, as I said, limit access to them because they are minors. They are only folks that have undergone one of the backgrounds for New Day establishment, which is basically a CYFD, APS background check. And then we do make sure they go to school, and whether that's towards obtaining a high school diploma or a GED, again, based on what their goals are, we work with them to figure out what that looks like. Because it is a safe home shelter, we do try to limit long-term stays. We try to have young people in for a maximum of 3 months, 90 days. Some of those get extended, but we try to figure out another solution, whether that's getting them into one of our housing programs or some other longer-term solution. Safe home youth shelter is not designed to be a long-term solution, but we also try to make sure that they're aware of all the facilities and activities that New Day offers throughout that time. And so I think we're going to do a little bit of a visual tour of one of the safe home shelters. So next slide, please. So that's the external. Again, you can see we refer to it as the safe home. Those doors are locked and can only be opened based from on the inside or with a key that about 3 of our staff have. Again, it tends to be a very safe and secure facility. Again, because we are dealing with minors. Next slide, please. So this shows our overall complex. On the left there, that's the safe home. We have one wing. I believe the left-hand side wing is sort of the boys' side. The right side is the women's, and then there's that wedge in the back outside that has a basketball court and some other outdoor areas. On the right there, you'll see a building that has sort of a little white A on it. You might be able to see that's our Life Skills Academy. So that is one of the more potentially confusing nomenclatures that we use. So we have our Life Skills Academy, which is that physical building. We also have the Life Skills Academy classes that some are held at the Life Skills Academy, and since we developed the drop-in center a few years ago, a lot of them are done there. So we have what life skills can both mean a building as well as a set of classes. And if there's ever any ambiguity there, I'm happy to answer it. As best I can. Next slide, please. This is our main area. So basically, if you would come in those doors, this is where you would come into. And so this sort of shows you some of the office spaces as well as sort of the general community areas. Down each of those wings in the safe home, young people have their own spaces. We only have 2 young people to a room if needed, so we can accommodate about 16 young people at any one time. We generally encourage young people to come out and engage with community space, but they're not forced to if they're just having a bad day, they're not there at the moment. They can spend time in the rooms as well. This is one of our community spaces. Next slide, please. So this is the kitchen, and this is the dining hall. So that we actually have the New Day mosaic there that actually looks out onto the parking lot. We actually did get the paint scheme. I will mention Mike's Quality Painting actually donated about $10,000 of free painting at the end of last year, and we got our safe home totally repainted. And that actually led to a very nice situation where our young people and staff rearranged pretty much every room, including the community room the community space you just saw, as well as our dining hall. So instead of having one long table, now they have sort of clusters of tables, almost like a little restaurant. So it really was able to kick off a very nice transition and sort of re-engagement with the space. Unfortunately, again, we had to shortly thereafter we had to put it on pause due to some staffing issues. But I think that mentality going forward will definitely be there of re-owning the space. Next slide, please. This is our sort of library and activities room. This is around Halloween, as you can tell from the trick or treat signs. And this has a variety of books and games and other things. And also, I believe there is now, it's not in this picture, either a treadmill or a stairmaster for some exercise as well. This is off that main community space that we saw first. Next slide, please. Here's a traditional bedroom. Again, this is obviously when someone's not in it, it's not furnished in terms of having young people in it yet. But generally, this will be one of them. Each young person gets sort of a bed, a stereo, and a closet for clothes as well. We also have clothes that we can provide young people at the safe home as well as if they come in without much of it. Next slide, please. All right, so now, that's the safe home, we'll move on to our drop-in center. So, our drop-in center is for 16 to 22-year-olds. It is focused on young people who are actively living on the street or actively dealing with unstable housing. The focus of, and within the drop-in center, we have our street outreach team, which is actually a group of staff that actually go out into the community and try to engage with young people who are actively living on the street, provide them with resources and that can be the physical resources in terms of water, food, blankets, what have you, as well as information that the drop-in center is there if they need more structured supports. Drop-in center includes, we have food. We also we also make a community meal once a week. We have in-kind donations that we can give out in terms of food, clothing. We have life skills coaches that can talk to them about, again, where they're at, what they want to do. We also just have a quiet room because, again, obviously with young people living on the street, they need to be constantly surrounded. Sometimes it's nice just to sit in a quiet, comfortable room and scroll on your phone and not worry about what's happening around you. That's also primarily, like I said, where a lot of our current life skills classes come out, occur. We generally have 2-3 classes per day. And what else? We also just have, community craft, we have craft spaces, we have weights, we have, a TV if they want to watch a movie, things like this. And one of the big things that always impresses me is when you actually come into this, the drop-in center, is the first question you're asked is, how can we help you today? What do you need today? And they'll, young people will offer, oh, I need clothes today, oh, I need food, oh, I need, this or that. And then we try to work with them on it. But the biggest thing is that as long as young people meet the criteria, the age criteria of 16 to 22, and they don't bring in a loaded or unloaded gun, they're welcome to. If they have a self-defense weapon, if they have drugs on them, we do have lockers that we ask them to lock that up. When they leave the drop-in, they will be returned to them because that is their property. The lockers that they have can be utilized for long-term storage if need be. We also have some long-term storage tubs as well. And again, this is all part of us meeting young people where they're at. We, again, try to work with them and explain to them that we do have substance abuse services available when they are reduced. Next slide, please. So our overall drop-in center, this is from a slide deck that originally was sort of our year-end wrap-up in August of last year. So this is for fiscal year 23. So from July 1 of 2022 to June 30th of 2023, the drop-in center served 208 young people. And again, we're only open 4 days a week, 12 to 6. We had over 2,800 visits. So what that means is we had a 71% return rate, especially amongst marginalized populations that may or may not be staying in the area long term. It's an incredibly high return rate and really speaks to the idea of a community that we're trying to build drop-in center and use that as springboard for other deeper connections. And so what that roughly equates to, just to give you an idea, that's about 15 to 20 young people per day at the drop-in. This year so far, for fiscal year 24 that we're going to end in June, we're seeing closer to 30 per day. And we've had larger events. So for example, we had an event after the Pride Parade this past year, and we had about 150 people. We had 150 people at our drop-in center overall. So we do have larger events, but the average is 15 a day, 15 to 20 a day during that time, and then about 2 to 30 this time. Next slide, please. This is the front door. That's the street view. This is the front door that we saw. That yellow door is locked, and there's a staff member behind it. So when young people want to approach the drop-in, they ring the bell. The door is open for them. They're given sort of, what do you need? How can we help you today? And then also we ask for their name so that we can track their information. That goes directly to our data team, as well as the services that we'll provide. Next slide, please. So this is one of the front rooms. Again, we try to make it as comfortable and cozy and home and sort of, what you would see at, anyone's home, just to make it more comfortable for them. The other thing that's this is actually a repurposed environmental architecture firm. So it's sort of a U-shaped building, and the middle part of the U, there is a door that splits it between sort of the social space that the young people have full-time access to when we're open, and the other side, which is where we can do individual classes as well as the offices for our staff. I will mention that we are closed to the public on Monday, so if community groups like yourselves, if you ever wanted to tour the drop-in center, you're more than welcome to. I'm happy to arrange that, and I will probably be the one giving the tour. So feel free to take a card and let me know what you're thinking. One of the things I want to point out is behind that white screen there, on the middle right, is a computer. And again, one of the things that young people tend to lack if they're living on the streets, while they might have a phone, they might not have access to a computer or internet access. We try to make sure that that's available for them as well. Next slide, please. Again, this is another piece of that same space. You can see the computer there on the left. On the left, there is a keyboard, and there's also a TV in there to watch movies, and again, just allow young people to relax. Next slide, please. And so this is some of our crafting space. Generally, have tables back there. We've had young people like customize their sneakers, and I've seen like sneakers drawing back there. We also did a collaboration last November into December. One of the other things that I do is on the New Mexico School for the Blind and Visually Impaired Foundation Board, and we partnered with another group that had done a gingerbread house making program. And so we actually got young people from, I was able to very nicely combine the two. I was very lucky there, where we got some young people from New Day that contributed and actually built gingerbread houses that were then submitted for the competition and won. It was very awesome. And we actually got some of the School for the Blind and Visually Impaired Foundation board members to basically sponsor the $25 registration for the young people from New Day. So it was a very nice collaboration. I was very happy to see that. Also, the other thing that's really cool to point out is if you notice there's a roll-up door on the right there, there's a lot of ways into the space. Because it was an architecture firm, there's a few different ways you can sort of walk through the space with all the doors rolled up, and there's multiple ways you can sort of traverse the space, which is very nice as well. We just had an event on this past Monday, which was the 8 Dimensions of Wellness with some other behavioral health groups, and we were able to open up all the doors and get people to sort of move through different spaces as well. One of the programs that was highlighted there that we're in the process of sort of working with or providing groundwork for is called Kaleidoscope. That's going to be looking at substance use amongst youth for both young people involved, substance involved, as well as their family. And that's also going to focus primarily on opioids in the community. So that is, so one of the things that was happening during that event Monday was we were talking to young people in our programs and young people who are either potentially using or have used in the past to be on our community advocacy council or community advisory council, so they can basically that young people can contribute to how the program is structured and speak more directly to the services that they need and how they need them. And that's one of that again. We throughout this entire discussion, I hope it comes across very clearly that we try to meet with young people and make sure that we're working with them, figure out what they need, and we have a very bottom-up approach. It's not us coming in as if an organization is saying, here's the programs you're going to fit into these. We shift and we like to see New Day as something that will always shift to meet the needs as it arrives within the community. Next slide, please. Here's our kitchen. So we have two refrigerators. We have young people cook meals. We also sometimes have some grab and go food. We have a pantry. And again, once a week, generally the community meal that is, you either eat at the table or out on some other couches in some of our other spaces. And then also we get donations as well. Amore Pizza donates on a regular basis, basically once a week for pizza. We found, not shockingly, our life skills classes, if there's food there, that brings the young people. They like Leon's, they like Chick-fil-A, they like KFC. Those are the big hitters that young people come in. Not so much, yeah. We've actually talked with some vegetarian restaurants, and we try to make it very clear that we want to meet young people where they're at, and they don't necessarily have that palate there yet. But there's definitely things that we can work on in terms of that. And again, that's about community connections and cultural capital and all that stuff. Next slide, please. And then we also have laundry facilities as well, 2 washers, 2 dryers. So again, one of the things, and again, that's when we're talking about developing resiliencies and life skills and stuff that we may take for granted. Some young people, especially if they're living on the street, will just wear a piece of clothes until it literally falls apart or gets dirty and then throw it out. they don't recognize that sometimes laundry is a way to, you know, have stuff and then maintain it. And so, I mean, again, it's something that we might think of like, oh, how do they not know that or anything like that? But again, we're not here to judge, we're trying to build up the skills they have. And so it's something where, teaching them that we find very gratifying and making sure that we connect with them and show them that this is a skill that allows them to keep, if they like a piece of clothing, they can launder it and wear it again and keep it, you know, keep it in good stead. And so that's very important to us. Next slide, please. This is our in-kind room. This is a pretty full. It's not always like this. We're doing very well at the moment with in-kind, but that's another thing to underscore is we have, we are always looking for solutions. So if you have clothes that you think would be of use to 11 to 25-year-old or think that there be something that they'd be interested in, we're always in need. Or if you want to donate, you know, new or gently used clothes, whatever, what have you. We also do a drive around the holidays that to make sure that we have enough stuff, especially for the winter, because we do deal with young people who are actively on the street. Sub-zero sleeping bags, tents, as soon as they basically come in, they go back. Because as soon as they're donated, they go back out to the young people that we serve because they are such popular items. And then the other thing is if there's, and also feel free to just to donate. Again, if you think it would be something that young people would like, that would be great. We also have an in-kind specialist that goes through the stuff, works with some of our staff that work directly with the young people, decides, okay, this has been sitting there for 3 or 4 months in the in-kind room, it's time to go out. And then anything that comes into our organization gets donated back to the nonprofit. So it's a situation where if we don't think we can use it, we try to get it back out as well. But there's certain things we always tend to need. Underwear is always a big need. Men's pants tends to be a big need as well, especially larger sizes. And then men's footwear, men's boots or shoes as well. Next slide, please. Life Skills Academy. So that's, one thing before we totally move off the drop-in center. We're in the process of developing a more robust volunteer system for UDay. One of the things that we have done in the past, we worked with the United Way group last September to come in, and they had about 10 people clean the drop-in center for the morning. They're able to get it done in about 2 hours, and that those basic maintenance aspects are some of the things that we can do for volunteer programs at the moment. If you have any ideas of how you would like to help that don't necessarily directly engaging with the young people, I'm always open to those suggestions because we're trying to build that up and trying to figure out different ways to engage the community while maintaining the privacy of the young people that we serve. 2 life skills. Life skills again. These are span the gamut of different types of things. We have financial literacy, emotional intelligence, employment readiness, also art classes, self-defense classes, all these things are part of our Life Skills Academy. And that can happen both at the Life Skills Academy building as well as at the drop-in center. We tend to do it at the drop-in center because that already has a built-in audience. The young people are already there. And then it's a matter of, do you want to be part of this? Great. Yes, no. You don't have to be if you don't want to be. We're not going to force you to be there to be a part of it if you don't want to. Also, we do one-on-one life skills coaching as well. And then we also try to let young people know about health issues and try to provide early intervention for things like suicide prevention and also awareness of drug concerns and things like that as well. Next slide, please. And this is the one from October that sort of shows the variety of programming at the drop-in center. So again, it's mostly Tuesday through Friday. It gives you some general information about hours, laundry times, etc., as well as community meals and other programs. So generally, it's about 2 or 3 per day, and that just sort of gives you an idea of the variety of things that are happening. Next slide, please. And so that is actually the Life Skills Academy building. This will just be sort of a brief tour of it, just to sort of show you some of the spaces there. Next slide, please. So again, we have a piano, we have a very comfortable space. There are generally a few staff members there. Behind the piano on the left is a computer lab, which I think we'll have photos of as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, there's a computer lab, and the next slide. We also have a conference room. We also do staff training as well. We try to have regular staff development meetings, generally once a month in the space. Next slide, please. And then we also have an industrial kitchen In the past, we don't have this current program going now, but we have had a program where a chef worked with young people to get their food handling permits so that they can then work in the restaurant industry. So we've done that. Next slide, please. And then we have questions about New Day, our missions, or our programs, and then I'll ask you one more slide. And then that's my contact information on the left side there. J. Spielmann, S as in Sam, P as in Peter, IELMANN. If you get the I before the E and the two N's, you're doing great. That's generally what people about. And then my cell 505 318-7911. That's also on my card here that I have in person as well. Looks like we have about 5 to 6 minutes. I'm trying to answer any questions about the organization, what we do, or anything else. And if I can't answer it, I can take your information and direct you to the proper resources in our organization for those answers. Thank you. Appreciate your attention.
Questions? Do you provide tokens, bus tokens for them to travel? And the sites are not like all central roads.
So that's actually a wonderful thing. The bus program has actually been free now. So there actually is free public transportation. But that is a good question because we do have 3 disparate sites. That is a concern. So I want to also reiterate that when we were looking for a drop-in center, so our drop-in center has only been open for about 2 years after certification. And when we were looking for that building, were a few things we are lucky with. We have a commercial realtor on our board, which is very helpful. And we wanted to make sure that we're all within about 10 minutes of all the buildings. So all the buildings are within a 15-minute drive, assuming there's not, construction, traffic, etc. We do have a variety of vans and other things that we can use to transport between sites. So for example, on Christmas Day, we had some staff go in van and take a van and basically pick up some of our housing and bring them back to the drop-in center because that's where we were running things. We have a very nice donor who actually picked up about $300 from Garcia's, and we had that for Christmas, as well as, I did not know this is a very funny story. We were trying to figure out what we were doing for Christmas, and then someone from Cabela's, the hunting and sporting goods, called me and they're like, we have hams. I'm like, oh, we would love like 2 or 3. They're like, we have 30 or 40. We talked to our operations person, and we took about 15 hams. We cooked, I think 1 or 2 on the actual day of Christmas. Yeah.
Every kid got their own ham.
The best part about that is they were all like pre-cooked, pre-cured, so you said to heat them up. So that is a huge, then you're not dealing with concerns about undercooking. It was a very wonderful setup.
Yeah, there's a drop in the
Yeah. And did that answer your question?
Yes, I have another,
Sure, go for it.
because I was thinking about partnerships since I worked with APS at one point.
Oh, fantastic.
So, but the hard part about partnerships is a common database and keeping everybody informed so that the money streams and the money requirements and everything.
Mhm.
So is that pretty well coordinated? I presume so, but it sounds like it, but that was always the hard thing, making sure.
Not a problem. So, yeah, so we actually report we have regular reports, and we have monthly board meetings, and then quarterly we will review, the progress on each of the programs. Because we have reporting to both the city and the county, as well as the state and the federal government as well, and we're with CYFD as well. So it's a situation where we have regular reports, and that's why we have a 3-person data team that's always having that information. In terms of financial controls, we've grown very, very well over the last 20 years. Our current budget is about 5.3 million. About 90 cents of every dollar goes out the door to programs. We do have very strong tracking of our contract and grant expenses, and so we do make sure that we have those on a regular basis. I don't remember. I know in the last 2 years there's been any flags on any of our audits as well. So we do try to monitor them very closely. And our CFO, she has been with the organization for 10 plus years, so she's very well versed in all of that, making sure everything is very well structured and everything is, I have to do because I handle a lot of private donation fundraising. We have to reconcile. So I make sure that I know for our donor database if it's accurate, and then she has all the incoming finances, and we have to go through that. And she'll pull out like, okay, here's the stuff that came in a month, and it's a stack like that. So it's one of those where she's very she keeps everything in paper and digitally and very responsible about So, but that is a very big concern, especially in larger nonprofits, as they transition into larger and larger spaces. So just to give you an idea, we grew fairly rapidly, not rapidly, but, so we've had board members who have been there for about 20 years, so about 2,000. Two of our keyboard members. When they were coming in, our annual budget was about 750,000, and in the last 20 years, we've expanded to 500. So the line's going in the right direction for budgets as well as services.
Does a lot of that go for rent? I mean, it sounded like, yeah.
Correct, yeah. So again, like I said, 90 cents of every dollar that comes in goes back out for programming. We have about 60 different homes for young people in terms of apartments and other situations. So it is considerable, and we do provide, and
You must have a pretty good sized staff too.
we at 63 full-time, in terms of positions, I'm not gonna say all these are filled right now. I think we have about 57 filled at the moment. But 63 full-time positions, seven part-time positions. So we have a staff of about 70. So it's interesting, actually, one of the conversations we're having internally amongst leadership is the idea that we're shifting from a large, medium-sized organization to a small, large-sized organization. So right now, as I said, we're about 9 cents of every dollar is going out the door. We probably, just because of how big we're getting, we may need to do a little bit of investment into our admin infrastructure. So it may shift more towards like 87, 85% of every dollar goes out the door because of additional admin costs. But right now we're at 90 cents per dollar. But yeah, rents, and also depending on the individual program, some we pay the entirety of rent, other times young people contribute something to the rent if they're employed. So there is different situations depending on the individual program.
And you came out of an education environment, I guess, before. And
yeah.
Is there any honest and goodness teaching? I mean, or is that all outsourced? I mean, I would think, because, you know, I do some tutoring on little kids, you know.
Yeah.
Really, and it seems to me one of the big problems is just not getting the reading and the arithmetic down. You know, the real basics are missing a lot of times, and particularly under whatever your term.
No worries, young people experiencing homelessness and marginalization. So we've heard just, and again, the idea being that, because again, when people talk about the homeless, it often makes it seem like they are going to be homeless forever. And so that's why we talk about experiencing homelessness, because they might be experiencing it now, but through our programs, hopefully they won't be experiencing it for much longer. But to your point is yeah, I mean, we do try to work with in the systems available. So again, while we try to talk to young people and figure out what their ultimate goals are in terms of their education. If they just want to pursue GED, they want to pursue any GED, and we'll help them get there. If there's other aspects to what they want to pursue, we'll work with them on that. But we're more focused on trying to create overall life skills. So it's not necessarily traditional academic tutoring as much. I don't think we would be opposed to that in a structured fashion. But when it comes to that, we're more interested in just trying to build up the skills so that they can, you know, function in the world. And academics are obviously a part of that. But I don't know if we've actually developed any sort of, you know, reading curricula or anything like that. But one of the things we do is we partner with community programs, as well as work within our own program. So for example, our YASH coordinators, now they're providing, I think, one life skills class a month. So our staff are actively providing as well. So we're sort of a mix of both outside partners that are coming in and providing their expertise, as well as using our homegrown talent within our staff. And then that also provides an opportunity for young, because obviously the direct services people, the coordinators, are building that direct trust with young people. So there's a deep connection there. And so sometimes it's easier for the young people to learn from someone they've seen every day or every week, or et cetera, than it is from an outside group that they may not have as much.
So, so life skills, I mean, you've mentioned that multiple times, and some of that is so basic that we all take for granted if you live in a kind of standard family upbringing.
Yeah.
So you said that, food service is kind of not primary right now. It used to be like one of the biggest things, right? We had our groups go there in the past and had that meal, right?
Yes.
Anne's left, but our committee
Yeah.
many years ago. I don't know if you ever did
Yeah.
it prior to me being on that, but yeah. So what's the, over the basic life skills,
Yeah.
what are the focuses? Like, do we have like tech classes? The jobs or the skill, the development that gets them to employment
Sure.
levels,
Sure.
what's that offering?
Sure, we have basically like job readiness class in terms of like, here's actually what you need to do in order to apply for a job. You know, but basically like just basic things of like, here's your resume, here's your skill set, how do you express that, how do you handle an interview? And then also just basic financial literacy of, you know, if you're getting this money in, what is that, do you want to hold on to it, do you want to spend it, how much can you do of each, et cetera. Again, one of the other things we're very lucky with, we have a new board member as of a few months ago that is from New Mexico Bank and Trust. So again, one that's always been, so that's another thing that we always are focused on is amongst our board is having a wide variety of expertise and engage in different sectors. I've been involved with boards where everyone basically has the same background and the Venn diagram is, you know, practically the same circle. What's nice with New Day is it's a wide spread of different circles with a point of, you know, young people experiencing homelessness as a key component. So we have commercial realtors, we have CPAs, we have former financial advisors that now, you know, do music and, you know, concert events. We have some IT professionals at some of the labs. We have, you know, banking professionals, and we have engineers. I mean, we're very lucky to have the diversity that we do. The other thing that's incredibly, and I'll share this with you because I think it's always interesting when these sort of things work out. We also have a deep organizational knowledge still within and around the organization. Because again, we're almost 50 years old. But yeah. Sure, I'll make comments.
Some of us have.
Yeah.
I know this place my whole life.
Well, and that's a bit, well, just before I get on to the history aspect, is that one of the things that we really appreciate, is that if people are aware of New Day and buying their message, they're very much all in and are very strong supporters of New Day. The problem is, you know, adding to that message, enhancing that message. I feel sort of in a unique position because I'm the development director, so I tend to be the person who's doing a lot of the outreach, but then I'm also still fairly new to the organization, coming in as of August. So it's sort of odd. I feel like I'm bragging up my own organization at the same time, because I'm just like, I don't understand. I talk to people about what we do, and they're just like, why isn't this being screamed from the rooftops? And I'm like, yes, that's exactly where I'm at as well, where it's and so the thing is to do things like this, to bring more people into awareness of what New Day is, let them know that it's out there, let them know that, you know, we are in need of, you know, in-kind donations, you know, a level of awareness, telling people that this is available. Private donations if they're so interested and so inclined. I mean, those are all things that we can utilize, and again, goes back out to the community. But then with our organizational history, we're very lucky. So our current CEO, Brooke Tafoya, she was previously the director of operations there, and she's been there for about 7 or 8 years. So we have a nice long longevity there. We also have those 2 current board members who've been there for about 20 years. Then, this was a great joy of mine, because I do feel like I am trying to get connector and integrator. As I mentioned, I was on the School for the Blind and Visually Impaired Foundation. They were at a night golf event at the end of September. I was at the night golf event. I was wearing one of my New Day t-shirts at the event. One of the regents for the school. So the School for the Blind and Visually Impaired has the board of regents that run the actual school stuff, and then the foundation for sort of fundraisers for the administration to sort of fill the gaps that, you know, the larger scale funding that they receive doesn't fill. So one of the reasons comes up to me is like, New Day, is that young people, you know, homeless kids? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I was on the founding board in a long time ago. Not so long ago, sorry. Not so long ago. He's like, I was a founding board member. And I'm like, that's amazing. Would you like a tour of our droppings? So you came in and talked about it, and he's an amazing gentleman. I don't know. His name's Gary Smethurst. He's a very generous and fantastic gentleman. And then he connected me with one of the longer serving executive directors. So for an organization that's about years old, it is, for a certain first, we have probably, almost full coverage between our current board and that executive director, probably we're missing about 2 or 3 years of coverage for an entire organizational history, which is, we're very lucky.
You mentioned somebody with IT experience.
Yes.
Are you teaching the kids how to qualify for basic IT jobs?
Not at the moment, I don't believe. I think we are trying to focus just on, sort of more fundamental skills at the moment. We have connected with a local foundation that's just only about a year old that works with young people who have experienced domestic violence and then need support to get onto online courses, so they can provide, you know, course fees as well as laptops, things like that. So we have those available, but we don't necessarily do direct classes in terms of IT at the moment.
Okay, because I was thinking several of the people that I know have either gone into that or something like answering the phones at a call center, which is a definite skill.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was wondering if there's any way to, you know, get them practice.
I mean, yeah, no, talk to me. We'll see. I mean, my own feeling is the worst thing that can happen is like an accident, and then people say like, I don't think there's really a need, or there's young, we don't have necessarily the young people, the level of interest amongst the young people, the population isn't there yet. So my whole thing is let people know that it's out there, and then if young people want to take advantage of it, they can.
All right.
So I think if you want to, you know, shoot around some ideas, we'll definitely do that.
The other idea I was just curious about, not cats because I'm allergic,
Sure.
but a house dog.
The problem is we do not, so while the safe home is staffed, again, we're on pause right now, it should be open
Yeah.
summer. That is staffed, 365, 24/7. The drop-in center is not, unfortunately, so that limits that. We did have a staff member who did have a support dog that would often come, and I think they were coming through like once every 2 or 3 days. So there was sort of a house dog, yeah, not necessarily a full-time house. Yes. Yes.
Clientele breakdown.
Sure.
Female.
About 50-50.
Really?
Yeah.
Justin, this is amazing.
Yeah.
The amount of information.
No, and again, I recognize it is sort of a fire hose and stuff. And so if you need cards, I'm happy to, you know, happy to share them. And if you have, and again, I'm happy to talk with anyone about any ideas you might have. If something sparks now, sparks later, we can share any ideas. And again, if there's a community, there's a program that you think that young people might be of interest to young people, or where you can connect, I'm all for it. Please.
I think the biggest thing about this nonprofit in our community is it's the only one of its kind. That's the one thing that I didn't hear you say that I've heard others say in the past.
Yeah.
It's not like we have a plethora of services. Every community struggles for services, but you have more than one place to go get food, and you have more than one place for women and children to get service.
Yes.
And you have more than one place for domestic violence support. This is the only entity in our metro area that services this population.
No, and that is a huge piece. The other thing I want to highlight here is that we only deal with young people 11 to 25. A lot of times that we found through our history and through other research is that if you provide parallel services with adults and young people side by side, the presence of adults scares away the young.
Yeah.
And so that's why we focus exclusively on young people, because they're more likely to feel safe, comfortable, and part of the community, whereas a community purely of themselves. Yeah. Well, thank you all. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please. I'm gonna grab out my USB there. Perfect. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you running the slides for me. Thank you so much.
More than welcome.
Slide one.
Matthew's going to say in the service, it'll be John Hamilton, the director of East Central Ministries. Talk to us.
Wait, can I get Matthew to correct this?
Well, if I.
Good morning.
No, he was saying this morning.